Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian, and today we are actually talking about one of the most exciting topics that I've had on my backlist for a while, and it's what does New World need to do in 2021 to succeed. This is an upcoming MMORPG by Amazon Game Studios, and every time I sit down to talk about New World, obviously I think it's met with a lot of natural and probably even well-deserved skepticism. Now, I for myself actually don't share in that skepticism for my personal experience with the game. And I've obviously been following it for a long time. If you've been here on the channel, if you haven't, welcome, howdy. Thanks for checking out this video. This video is going to lean more into the positive. There's a lot of things they have to do, and we'll talk about maybe some things that they're going to obviously struggle with during this video. But note, generally, I'm really excited about this game. I think it has the potential to really come in and shake up the MMO genre, if it doesn't essentially kind of fall into the stereotypical trope of just copying what everybody else is doing. So there's obviously some risks the New World faces, but this video is going to be kind of focusing on kind of the 5 key areas. I don't know why I'm showing 10. The 5 key areas that New World needs to nail right out the gate to be able to make, I guess, hopefully Amazon happy with their game studios and continue on down that investment trail. So these are just my thoughts. I've been putting a lot of time and effort into this video itself, but always I'd love to know your thoughts as well. So if you feel like there's something that I miss or there's something that I could probably land in a little bit better, I always want to know. I love these conversations. So if you guys are new, like I said, this is a coffee chat. I literally just made myself a fresh cup of coffee. It means they're unscripted, but I do have my 5 bullet points over here to the side, so that way I don't just go on a tangent or some kind of turns into a mini rant and we get off topic and you're like, Brian, you listed 7 things. There's 5 things. There's a couple subcategories, so I'll let you guys keep count and let me know. All right, so first and foremost, New World is not launching against in a vacuum. You've got PSO2 New Genesis, you've got Swords of Legends Online, you've got Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, you've got maybe WoW might have an update. We don't know. Verdict's still out on WoW, if they're doing anything. You have Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons. You've got, and the list could go on and on. Like, honestly, this could just be a video about what MMOs are getting an expansion this year alone. ESO players are probably upset that I didn't list them in that first section of the list itself. I do apologize. So, note to self, sunken cost, player investment has long existed in these games. When Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker comes out, when New Genesis comes out here in June, those are going to be games that I spend a lot of time playing, enjoying, and talking about. It's guaranteed. And along those lines, what is New World going to do? It's a recognizable IP by a studio that's had a pretty tough track record. Now, I don't really necessarily worry about their track record so much. Honestly, I think if anything else, they're hungry for a win and they've got the bankroll to make it happen in a way. And that's kind of a war of attrition kind of mindset. So what is it? Constant content updates. Right now, for good or for bad, they're actually training me to expect a big update every month to month and a half. If New World can launch and within a month and a half can continue to hit this drumbeat of content after content after content drop, that's going to be a surefire way of building trust with the community. What I mean by this is content is king. Just contrast this to World of Warcraft, losing massive percentage of subs because there isn't anything new. WoW hasn't shown up to the game and provided an update. All you have to do, not all, excuse me, but the majority of what you need to be doing is hitting massive update after massive update. Now, we could always debate on what massive means, but right now in the alpha, every month, boom, here's the monthly update, here's what's being added. And if they can continue on that pace, when I go play 14, when other people come to check out New World for the first time, because it will be advertised, it will be hyped, people will be excited to play it, it'll have its natural tail. And what I mean by this is that every new game kind of has this massive tail. People come check it out, and whether they like it or they don't, or they go play something else, it dips back down. And after that dip, what you'd like to see is kind of a trending more upward as people either return to the game or the game kind of finds its footing and community. And that's essentially what you want to get. The way you build on that, the way that you get somebody to come back and check out the game after they've gone and played X, Y, and Z is with these big updates. And the fact is that you want to have those hyped, you want to have them substantial for the core community that's actively playing, but that will actually invite players back in after that initial dip. So if you typically that dip is when you'll see tons of people. It's always fun to see as a content creator in the comments, like game's dead, or this is the worst game ever, or I'm so angry. It's like there's an emotional roller coaster to gaming and gaming culture. And then once you kind of get past that initial kind of like, artificial wave, you kind of can build up your own trends and your waves there. So it's massively important that they focus in on that content, because that's going to be what helps invite people back. That's going to be like, you got to see this new update. They added X, Y, and Z. You got to see this new update. And that kind of leads me into the second biggest thing, and it's building a community. Community, along with content, is king. If you have friends that are playing this game, it's going to be a massive help. In fact, they talked about this with New World, about having Twitch integration. I think that in and of itself is going to be something that could be potentially a game changer for MMORPGs going forward. Now, what it means and how it's implemented has yet to be seen, but just imagine a world in which that you're playing X or you're watching X, and it turns out your friend is online playing this game. Visibility is going to be a real key factor into building that community, and depending on what types of Twitch integrations there are, that could be a key difference maker. Now, not factoring too much into cloud gaming as a part of this discussion, but Amazon's also getting ready to launch Luma. It's kind of in this early beta phase itself. I've gone hands-on with it. It definitely works. When it comes down to cloud gaming, what people are looking for is kind of press and play. That's kind of what they're shooting for with these games. And New World could be kind of a pioneer in that regards. Imagine just seeing your friend play, or see somebody that you follow on Twitch play a game and be able to hop right into their dungeon group, especially if they need to pick up a fifth member. To be able to have that ease of access, to be able to jump in, play, and have a really good time, helps to build that community, helps to build that visibility, helps to build positive experiences where, if you look at trends within just the MMORPG Reddit, constantly debating why the genre itself is struggling. I think one of the reasons is coming down to community, building out those relationships with each other, helping to establish a real sense of belonging and a real world that you want to be a part of. I think that's ultimately really critical. I think if they, on the topic of community, having Discord integration, being able to see your friend play, hey, they're playing New World, be able to see that content being played, being able to jump in to communicate, to send messages. We don't exist all in just one game anymore. These games aren't these, kind of like isolated towers anymore. And the more that you can make it easier for somebody to say, hey, I was thinking about playing this other game tonight, but I see that my friends are all over here. Let me jump in and play that and have that experience. I think the fact that the game doesn't have a sub fee also will help build out community, but it does have that paywall, that initial offering of you should pay to come play the game. And then after that, they'll kind of either bankroll it or they'll monetize it with we haven't seen their, cash shop yet. So always, anybody out there, just make sure you get all the information before you do decide to hand them money in that regards. But yes, also on terms of community, they need to establish systems that make it beneficial for friends to play together. I get that this could ultimately end up being a negative, and gamers will optimize the fun out of anything. And what you want to establish is a way or a reason to play with your friends. We're going to get more into the playing with friends here in a little bit, because you want to make it accessible. That's my fourth point. So we'll jump into point 4 here in a minute. But if you can sit down and you can have ways to incentivize your company, your guild, your friends, and to be able to do things together, having an active benefit. Like one of the things, if you look at Twitch versus YouTube, Twitch actively rewards those who are cheering, who are watching, who are just being a part of that community, where in YouTube, it's very isolating. You can't Twitch has found a way to play in and give rewards back. And I think if, New World can do that same thing by building in the party. The more you play together, you build up a friendship level or something along those lines will ultimately help build out strong community, a strong company, strong connections within the game that says, hey, I'm playing this game. I know I get 10% more XP if you come join me. Please do come play. I'll go do whatever you want, because I'm just here for either to level up a weapon or level up myself personally. At the end, I think you want to find systems that kind of help encourage that, be it like this idea or like any countless others. Hopefully, the devs are kind of thinking through that community focus for New World. Now, number 3 kind of ties into feedback. don't just listen to your content creators. This is something I see time and time again with like established games. Like the community as a whole either feels represented by a specific content creator, or they feel that the devs prioritize the content creator over the needs of the vast majority of people who aren't uploading videos or streaming the game. Take, for example, the Twitch integration. If there's an active benefit to streaming the game, and maybe that's just not something you want to do, you're ending up incentivizing something that just kind of separates, two different groups. You don't have to sit here and make a game for everybody. You can't make every feature that everybody's going to enjoy. That's just an impossible fact. But if it comes down to the features and the feedback are only coming from content creators, that's I think a bad kind of way of building kind of community trust, because you're going to end up finding there are players who aren't being heard, right? You put in an insane grind for that content creator who plays 40 to 60 hours a week, and no average gamer will ever be able to achieve that. Or achieve that within a reason, meaning, in order to go do the thing that's new and cool, you have to like basically sell everything and live, homeless and just have an internet connection. Like that ends up creating just frustration and friction between the developers, the content creators, and the gamers, the players themselves. 4 is talking about keeping it accessible. I kind of teased this a little bit ago. When playing with friends, if I am unable to team up with somebody, if I'm actively hurting their experience because I'm siphoning XP, well, it tends that we are not going to play together, and they end up having more of a solo experience. My personal take with MMORPGs is in the social. It is in those connections of us playing together and having that experience together. In fact, even in the New World preview, that was some of the highlights of the game itself. We were just going out, coming up with our own ideas of things that we wanted to go try to find and gather, to sell in the markets just to see if we could. And we had a blast. We had a blast because we were playing actively together. And if we were hurting each other, if like I was playing and because I was either lower level or because I was too high, if we're just not able to kind of move in one direction, that doesn't necessarily work. Things like party level sync end up kind of solving that problem. The ability for people to play together and just go off and do the content that they want to do, regardless of level range. I think that's a real win. Now, people hear party level sync and tend to their experience be as WoW, or where like the game scales or syncs to you automatically. And I think I'd rather just end up seeing it where like if I'm like level 30, my friend's level 15, we're in a party, I say, hey, I'm going to sync, and now I'm acting as a level 15 player, and we can go play in the game and the world, and I'm still getting experience, and so are they. They're still getting experience, but we're kind of like tuned at that level 15 adjustment. Where this would not work in my mind is that you wouldn't want them to sync up to level 30. It's like, let's go play and level. And that's kind of takes me to the second point. XP should always also have a value. If you're going to allow us to play together and XP is something you use for leveling your weapons, yourself, your personal character, don't make it run out. Don't make it lose value once you're at cap. Now, as to how you implement that, what system, the debates are out there. Like if I just said, just make it something that's just for fun, like a kind of like a treasure chest that happens that just drops on you every extra level past 60 that you can get. Well, ultimately, like people are like, it's not really worth it. I get that. If you make it too focused on progression, maybe you won't be able to do some of the end game stuff because they were going to want you to go grind out 100 levels in addition to the 60 that you've already gained to get to level cap. So I think there's a balance though. I think there's a system in place that can be used to help players enjoy and engage the game long after you've hit cap, and then thus rewarding you to go back into different zones, to complete different quests, just to go farm different enemies, both for materials, for crafting, but also for XP, whether you're playing with friends again, or even solo by yourself. And so I think that's going to be a real critical aspect to it. Now, on those lines, I would love to see them provide like different APIs and tools so the community can kind of dive in and do some interesting things. I love stats. I'm a baseball nerd. Having stats that drive me as a player into the game to experience as much as I can, to kind of see how I improve, or all the different ways. I think if you open up the ability for the community to kind of take the data and really kind of make it their own, I think that's something that ends up being very, very powerful to the state and the health of the game. Obviously, this all builds up off of the first thing, which is the content. And this brings me to my last point. It kind of ties into accessibility, but it's the ability to play the game wherever you need. Now, A New World looks great. It is a beautiful game. And I think if we were talking about console support, I'm definitely favor of that. I know that when I talked to the New World guys on Twitter, they said full controller support is going to be there. I played the preview event with controller support. So if they're able to update the menus and stuff like that to work with the controller, I think that's going to be even better, a greater experience for everyone. And that accessibility, especially when it comes to the controls, it's not like you have endless number of skills already to kind of have to worry about. So if I'm able to sit down and play New World on a controller, could I not also play it on a console? Could I not also play it, on GeForce Now? Could I not also play it in the cloud? Could I not, and the more ways that the game is able to be accessed, whether you have the internet or not, whether you have a console or not, whether you just want to play it on PC, then I think that's a strength overall for the game. Obviously, when it comes to consoles, there's definitely a mindset that MMOs can be played on consoles, to which I would respond with 14 can absolutely be played on consoles. Yes, there might be kind of trade-offs, and no, I don't think I'd want it to come to consoles if it were to sacrifice the heart of what makes the game unique. I don't want to hamstring, or I don't want to hobble the game in a way that just makes it says that consoles is never one important. However, if they're able to do that and it's able to come to systems like a PS5 and a Series X, and I'll say the newest generation, the new generation, namely from a spec forward, rather than having to sit in here and say it runs on PS4 or it runs on Xbox One. I don't think that would ultimately be the right call, especially with a game launching in 2021. Think now forward as a way of kind of being able to scale, and also not being afraid to pull those off of consoles, so consoles don't become a limiting factor when you want to raise the tech behind it, when you want to build it up. And the question then would come into it is would that be something that I think ultimately people want? And I think there's a demand for it. I think there's a hunger for that. I think especially when you look at 2021, there's a massive hunger for new games. 2020 was a year of delays and even big disappointments. And I think if we can see and sit down and actually have an experience, whether you're playing on console, if you're on PC, but you're able to jump into this game in this world, I think that ultimately kind of builds up on all the things. Constant content updates, building a community, playing accessible with friends, and also just trying to listen and hear from a wide range of people. And be able to effectively communicate that to the world. I think then all of a sudden you start having the building blocks for an MMORPG in 2021 to really start setting the tone and maybe even set a brand new starting point. Something that people can kind of look back and say, man, wow, I didn't see that coming. At the end of the day, those are my thoughts. I'd love to know yours. Thanks for joining me for this coffee chat. I think I only took one sip as I was pontificating into the world. As always, let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear them. Sound off in the comments. And if you guys enjoyed this video, I love it if you hit that like button, if you hit that share button, maybe tweet out the New World so we can get this information in front of them as much as possible. But again, these aren't just my ideas. If you guys have your own, always let me know, or you can join in on Discord and let me know as well as we barrel forward to July 20th and to August 31st for the release of this game, the beta, and then the release. That's gonna be go time, and we're gonna see how Amazon fares. I honestly have a lot of faith. I have a lot of hope actually in the game itself. I know Amazon's got a lot of hurdles. I'm not gonna sit here and say they're not gonna have some struggles, but if nothing else, when it comes down to it, it is going to be an interesting year to see if we're going to see some kind of shock to the system in terms of MMORPGs. Anyway, guys, that's it. Love you faces. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.